And we're live. All right, folks, welcome back to another week here on Search Geek Speak, brought to you by SEO Dojo Radio. Right, Deb? Right?
Yeah. Right.
We're working on it. We're going to put a poll up on that at some point. Okay, so that's, of course, Debra Mastaler. I'm finally getting it right after all these years. Thank you, God. And that's Alliance Link is our main hub now.
That's right? Yes, that's the only one now.
Oh, the link spiel is pretty much out of the way.
All the other ones, I had a couple too that maybe were a little more under the radar, but yes, all been rolled into one.
Excellent. Doc Sheldon, Top Shelf Copy, how are you doing today, sir?
Great, and pleased to be here.
All bundled up for that chilly 40-degree weather.
I'm waiting for the temperatures to at least get up to my age.
Wow, 100 degrees is a little hot, isn't it? And of course, Joyce, Linkfish Media. Hello. How are you?
Good. How are you? Happy to be here.
First time visitor. Kristi Hines, freelance writer. We're just going with that. KristiHines.com, of course, if you want to find her writing. And show notes later on, we'll have everyone's Twitter handle. How are you? Good to have you.
Good. Thank you.
Are you still in the coffee shop, or where are you now?
I am. I'm in the back of the coffee shop, so I'm hoping it'll be a little.
It's pretty quiet. Yeah, it's not bad at all. Sounds good. And of course, Terry Van Horn, SEO Pros, SEO Dojo. How's it going, dude? Good to see you.
Good.
All right. Well, Terry, you got some notes here. So where are we starting off with leveraging production process?
Yeah. So one of the things that I do personally is, as Dave and I are making videos and stuff, get slides of that stuff, and kind of you can put together slide shares. Interesting slide, you can do it as an image, and I use it on. We have used that sort of stuff to pre-promote, say, an event like this, or we've done video clips. So basically, we use the production process to provide content that we can use on our social media. And that's what I mean by leveraging the production process, because at each part of the process, there's actually a piece of content that doesn't give away the whole piece, and it starts the talk about it. That's been our experience, at least. So Debra has provided us with some slides here, and these are prospecting and monitoring tools. We'll talk about them in a bit. I guess I'll just open it up and say, what do you do along the production process to kind of get full use of the different steps in the content process?
I think that's a good question for Kristi to start with.
Oh, sorry, I almost forgot to unmute myself. Well, primarily I do blog posts for people, so I do a lot of competitive research beforehand with like BuzzSumo and things like that to see what popular topics are out there, and then I kind of like look up different kinds of content that people are doing besides the blog posts, and then suggest it to people, like, you know, like we can do supplementary video, or like you said earlier, slide shares and things like that. And I find the more different ways that you publish the content, the more eyeballs you get to it, the more traffic, the more links and everything. So a lot of it I just start with research, though.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. You know, we're kind of big on it. As far as, you know, we could take a video and turn that into a podcast. You can turn it into small clips. You can put a transcript and make a blog post out of it with resources, et cetera, et cetera. Try and get the most legs out of everything you do. Kind of like Deb with her slideshows. You know, use them at a conference, use them on a talk show, radio show, you know, use them everywhere. But yeah, and I guess would you guys consider, at least as far as when you're starting off the process, different channels, like, you know, what, you know, can I get an image that's going to do well on Pinterest with it, or, you know, YouTube, or like how do you guys go about the process of targeting channels for a piece of content? Or does, you know, is it chicken and egg, cart and horse thing? Do you think about the channels first, or do you think about the content first, then the channels?
I always like to just include a really good image because I find that like that's going to do well anywhere on social media. So I always try to include something like that in my posts, at least one, if not a couple.
Yeah, I think knowing what your demographic is critical on that. There's so much that can be done playing between the different social media platforms, depending upon where your target audience is, and sometimes the same piece of content will have to be targeted in different ways to two different audiences that may be receptive to it, but you got to approach it a different way. What you might put up on Pinterest, what you might put up on Instagram could be similar. What you do on Facebook is probably going to be a little bit different.
Hmm.
And Deb, I guess we got to even go beyond social media, don't we? Like I know a lot of what you do is also promoting through other channels and people and networking. It's not all just about throwing it out on social networks,
Yeah, my bailiwick, I guess, is more for traditional media, and that's a little bit different. I'm going to say it's a little bit different maybe than what Kristi is talking about, simply because it's more geared toward a story that's going to appeal to a very, very small segment of people, and that's a journalist, so that it would be reprinted. So for me, it's a little bit different in that regard. Julie probably has more experience being with the outreach part of link building, but for media focus, it's a different kind of content writing. It's a different kind of outreach. You start with a pitch typically, and not an end product piece of content, and then from the pitch you can change what it is that you're going to send over to the journalist or have the journalist interview you on. So in that regard,
so you're tailoring it to the journalist and the publication itself to a degree?
Sometimes, it really depends on the industry and the journalist. Financial people really love journalists. They love broadcast. They want to know what's coming up. They want to see what's coming in the future. They want to, be the guru, if you will, versus somebody that's in retail or, say, the mom area or cooking and that type of thing. They're really looking for what's trending and for buzzy words. So it really depends. You have to kind of focus your writing on, again, with the media. I'm really more talking about traditional media, online media, newspaper, magazine, TV, radio kind of writing and pitching stories. So that's kind of different than, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, girls, but that's really kind of different writing than writing for content or writing for SEO, if you will.
I'd agree with that.
All right, so Julie, from your end of things, I guess to a degree, the outreach is your main tool of choice.
Right, it is.
And where are you finding targets for people to go after for a given piece of content? And again, I guess rolling back to the same other question, is it chicken or egg? Is it the content first or the targeting of the promotional avenues first?
Right, it's actually both for us, and we've been using social media a lot to identify bloggers that we want to connect with. And sometimes we'll go to them with a pitch and say, this is what we have. If they say I'm not interested, we have been asking, could we create something that would interest you? And that's been going pretty well. So in that case, sometimes we have the content ready, sometimes we just kind of create it and tailor it to what they want.
And I think, wouldn't that to a degree, at least with bloggers or people of that nature, does that not sort of make them feel better too? Because, hey, I'm kind of creating, tell us about your demographic, tell us about your people,
right.
We care about your people. Doesn't that sort of empower them, make them like you a bit more? Because you're not just slapping a piece of content and saying, here, what I got. You're kind of saying, hey,
exactly.
what are your people like? And they get to talk about themselves and their demographic.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it's been going so well. And we didn't decide to start doing it so much as somebody said, no, leave me alone. And I told the link builder, just ask, what about this did you not like? And the lady said something like, well, it just wasn't geared towards my site. You obviously didn't look at my site and pick something that my readers would like. So after that, that's when we decided to start asking. And lots of webmasters say, that'd be great because I'm going to be off next week. I'd love to have, a nice piece of content to keep everything rolling. So it's been really successful. But, outside of social media, we've just been finding people from just searching through search engines. Just going and typing in, DIY kitchen or something like that and finding good blogs. And we look at them, research the sites, and then just reach out to them.
You're using Link Prospector for the SERPs?
No, we haven't. We don't use any tools for the search, actually. I think we should in a way, but we have people who aren't SEOs that are doing this work, and they find some great sites.
If you try Link Prospector, it'll take the results you're getting from the SERP, and you can save it as a CSV. So you can actually keep track. It also imports into buzzwords. Little promotion for my buddy Garrett there, but the tool that Dave and I exhausted. I use it for everything when I'm grabbing.
Okay, I should check that out. Is that Garrett French's tool?
Yeah, that's Garrett, yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I should definitely try that. I have used LinkRisk, it was kind of developed to do link auditing and things like that, but they have a tool called Peak that I've been using also. I
think the best thing you said is you had non-SEOs doing it.
No, right, and that's the thing. And
good move.
Thank you. But it sounds awful, but I don't let our employees use LinkRisk. So I might use the tool and find a few sites that look good, and then I'll send it to them and say, you might want to reach out to these guys. Because I do like to keep them, just functioning as human beings, like actual users. So they don't really think, they know some SEO, because I have to tell them some, but they don't know that much.
That's the best way to have it for link building.
Yeah, I think that's why they create such natural link profiles, because they just look at it and they think, does this look like a good site, and would I click this link, and that's all they think.
They're not using SEO metrics when they review sites. They're using user metrics, which
exactly.
are always the best.
Yes.
Kristi and Doc, since you guys do a lot of copywriting stuff, do you get in a bit of a juggling or an arm wrestling match, because you've got to not only consider the demographic of where you're promoting the content, but the needs of your client. So did you get into a bit of a juggling act to try and get there? Because the client might want something that the demographic's not going to like.
Go ahead, Kristi.
Oh, I was going to say, usually I ask them what their goals are first, and then, if they say, well, social media is my goal, and here's the topics I want to cover, I tell them, I think that's a great topic when your customer finds it, but you're probably not going to get a lot of social shares, because that's just not what people on Facebook or something are into. So I'm just kind of open with them, that way they know to expect, versus, we could do this post, and it would probably get, tons of social shares, but it's not necessarily your customers that are going to be they're probably not going to, it's not going to lead into a buy, so it really just depends which one you're aiming for.
A lot of that is just to raise visibility, though. I think that's, with SEOs, visibility isn't really seen as that big a deal, but for me, it's always been about visibility marketing.
Oh, there's Terry's new catchphrase. How's it work that in?
Yeah, I agree with Kristi. I think it's important to get inside the client's head and find out what their goals are, find out what the demographic is of their target, and really tailor the content that way, just like you tailor where you're going to place the content. So I have the luxury of being able to switch hats between copywriter and SEO and look at both sides. And Terry, I agree 100%. The visibility, more so today than a couple of years ago, obviously, visibility has become paramount.
Well, even myself, when I work with content with clients and stuff, and they, okay, we're going to focus on Facebook or wherever, especially Facebook. I find so many times, again, what they're having in their head isn't buzzy enough or conversational enough, or, and it's the kind of stuff that'll just slip by the timeline on people, and you almost have to sit there and kind of haggle it out with the client of, it's a nice topic and all, and it pushes your product and your authority, but it's not, I think if you're targeting Facebook, and you get into those kind of arguments.
I think, what I run into a lot is people seem to focus on one aspect or the other. They're either trying to get as much visibility, they're using clickbait titles and stuff like that just to get hits. The people are still after those decades-old hits, and it doesn't do you any good to have great traffic if you got crappy content, and it doesn't do you any good to have great content if you're not getting the traffic. And it's nice to be able to actually find a client that's receptive to the fact that the two have to go hand in hand. Unfortunately, it's not always the case.
Now, I know, Debra, you and I, way back when we started thinking about this, we were talking about on-site and off-site as far as, content and promotion, meaning what content do you put on your site, what content do you put on other people's sites. how do you make those kind of decisions?
You know, in general, I used to like to say, and I still say it to some degree, I don't like sending content away from a site. If I'm going to write something wonderful, then I want to keep that on my site and promote it off. But the reality is that most websites don't have that kind of chutzpah, if you will, to be able to promote a piece of content off their site. And so they have to send it out, and this is where, you know, a lot of this guest blogging and guest writing, or like Julie and I do for Search Engine Land, or Julie does. I'm not as active anymore.
Yeah, well, the same thing I used to write over there as well. So I'd look at stuff and go, this is pretty good. Do I put it on my site or do I put it on Search Engine Land? I don't know.
Right. That's one of those, you know, you got to make those decisions. Do you need the promotional push? Do you need the exposure, or do you want that on your site, and can you gain the same promotional exposure and as well as the SEO benefit from it? Those are those kinds of things you have to make those decisions on. And for people like us, we do both. You know, you have to do both. Like Doc was talking earlier, I really think there's different kinds of writing. There's writing for SEO. There's writing to attract media attention, for example, and there's writing just flat to attract attention and get people to notice you and to build a reputation. There's different kinds of writing. There's different kinds of titles, and it's like Kristi made a comment. She goes, great topic, but it ain't gonna fly for eyeballs. You know, it just doesn't work that way. And so you have to make some decisions. When you work in an industry like manufacturing or engineering, how hard is that, you know, to write really great content that's going to get a lot of eyeballs and you know, attraction to your site. In those cases, most of the time you have to focus on what your industry wants, you know, topically, and what they want. Nobody on Facebook is really going to care about, or Twitter, or any of the rest of them. You really have to have a really good handle on where it is you're writing to, you know, what you're trying to get out of it, attention-wise, because not everything can be written for SEO, not everything can be written for eyeballs, and not everything can be written for the media. And I think, you know, at least from my perspective and what I do, those are the kinds of things that we look at and where we focus our content. But offline, you know, we were also talking a little bit, just so everyone else knows, Dave and I were talking about if you have a piece of content offline, not on your site, but like, you know, off the web kind of promotion. And I think really if you're a brand or wanting to be a brand or wanting to be known, you got to focus on some of those channels too, you know, and get yourself writing and written and noticed and promoted. Find those influencers in those channels to help you push your stuff as well. So I always used to say that I don't like sending good content away from my site, but you know, the reality is not that many people know who Debra Mastaler is, so I got to do it. I got to go someplace else and promote it. And I think that's what you'll find with most people. You know, the average Joe webmaster just doesn't have the draw.
To me, it always depends on the site. Like, do they have enough visibility already that they actually have you bringing them content because of that? So you have to decide, are you a player or are you trying to become a player? One of the easy ways to get around that dilemma, and someone in the dojo has done this for a long time, is Steve uses what he calls a triplet. And that's, you put one really, really good piece of content on your site, then on other more visible sites, you put shorter stuff that kind of points people back to that bigger article. That's a more legitimate way to gather links to a website too, is if you're expanding on the topics in that longer article, right? So you do one about 1,500, and then you do a couple, you know, 800, the usual guest blogging type stuff. That has worked quite well for a lot of people.
Does anybody, you know, I know we had, a while back when we had Mark Traphagen on and stuff, he was in this phase of his last summer, I guess, that he was creating entire pieces of content on platforms, not even on the site, meaning like on Google Plus or Facebook or wherever. You guys, what's everyone's at least thinking about that type of approach? Meaning it never even gets on the site. You're literally putting standalone content on various social channels or whatever.
I've been thinking about starting to do that because in some other work I've been doing, I found that the fastest way to grow your Google Plus profile followers is to participate in communities and write directly. Look at Mark, look at Bill Slosky. When they were writing directly and people were on Google Plus and people were sharing their content, they grew really fast.
Julie, Kristi, you guys, do you think of that as a viable approach?
Yeah, I think it's viable, and we've started getting a lot more referrals, like from LinkedIn, and it's from when people have shared maybe an article I wrote on LinkedIn. And I think the last Search Engine Watch article that I got was shared on LinkedIn, and it sent more refers than anything else. And I'm seeing a lot of people write, just really good articles on LinkedIn. So I haven't really tried it that much myself, but the referrers are definitely up for it. So I think it's definitely a viable option for a lot of people.
These guys are actually even doing it right in their stream. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not even like an article on LinkedIn. These guys are literally writing articles into their stream as part of their
and I think it's good. I mean, before we were never getting anything from LinkedIn, and this is just articles getting shared. So I think the value of people actually writing on those platforms, directly, is probably going to grow.
We found LinkedIn groups to be awesome for getting refers and people sharing your content.
Right.
It's a really good channel.
Well, again, I think it depends on the content. It's LinkedIn, so.
Oh yeah, that's why
your mommy blogger stuff isn't going to probably fly over there.
Right.
That's why you target groups are naturally for the topic day. That also gives you topicality around where your stuff is appearing. And I've got a feeling that Google likes anything that it can attach a topic to and help them identify what your website is about.
Right.
A lot of people have been doing that to great success on G+. Mark, Trap Hagen's been doing it. Eric's been doing it. Dave Amerlin does a lot of it, where they're putting up.
But we got the marketing techie crowd over there. Again, I think the channel depends on.
Sure, but they're putting long form content up there, and I know David has been getting great results. I think it's a good approach if branding is your particular goal. I think that for ranking, obviously, it's not gonna do you a whole lot of good, but it can definitely.
I disagree. If you have enough followers, it's fucking awesome. Like your stuff goes right in the results. You can't beat that. I've seen up to 5 posts in one search from a group, so I disagree there, Doc.
You're just too wishy-washy, Terry.
Tell you, get some opinions, man. Stop standing on the fence. Kristi, long form content right on social channels, is that something you look at?
I write for so many other places. I haven't been able to do it on my own social channels, but usually if you do kind of, especially if you're using the LinkedIn publisher right now, just because it's by default notifying every contact you have that you just wrote a new post. I mean, that's something you kind of got to tap into before they shut that down. So,
I mean, marketers might abuse that. No.
I'm sure lots are using it right now, but I've had some clients, even really small ones. They're like, yeah, when I publish to LinkedIn, I get all these leads just because everybody gets notified about it. So
it's
topical there too. The audience is usually more in tune with what you're doing.
Somebody had asked me recently about advertising on LinkedIn. They were talking about doing Facebook ads and then doing LinkedIn ads. And I kind of giggled and I said, well, I wouldn't pay for any LinkedIn ads. All you have to do is publish an article on there and you get the same result pretty much. And they're very expensive to advertise on LinkedIn versus Facebook. But yeah, that's a great point that Kristi made. Use it before it goes bye-bye. But it's instead of I wouldn't pay to advertise over there. That's what I would do.
I think that's also a good place to at least go at the moment. Is what do you guys all your opinions as far as paid promotional elements? You know, look at Facebook's wonderful change a few years back where not every one of your followers sees stuff, you know. I've got clients with 10,000 Facebook followers. You put a piece of content out, and it says, you know, 300 people saw this. Promote this post. Oh, okay. You know, so, but the paid avenue, you know, how often do you, for clients or any other reason, what's everyone's stance, at least at the moment, as far as paying for promotional elements on various social sites or elsewhere?
In regards to LinkedIn, speak to Miranda Miller, Debra. She would change your mind on that. You can actually really target really well on LinkedIn.
Really?
Absolutely. They do have great targeting.
Even more so than Facebook.
I've never had any luck with them. In the two niches that I've worked in, you know, with targeting. And they have a pretty good advertising dashboard, you know, when you go into the back and you set things up. You're right, they can get pretty granular. Just never had any luck with it. And, you know, maybe it was the time of year. I don't know. Maybe it was me. I've had way better success on Facebook. But, again, only seem to do that for retail-y kind of things. I've never done it for SEO. I've never done it for financials, pharmaceuticals. I've never done it for, you know, anything other than what I call the, you know, buy me now kind of stuff into retail, and I've always had good luck with it. Until last year, I used StumbleUpon too. I bought Stumbles, and that seemed to go really well for pretty things, photography, you know, more visual, for travel, for real estate, and for some reason that just doesn't seem to do well anymore. I'm not really sure what's happened, and I've not looked at their numbers to see if they've, you know, really gone down. And I've not tried Pinterest, and I understand that they have an ad platform now, but I've not tried it. So I think the next time I get somebody in a food or another girly retail kind of thing, I mean to say that negatively, just as a you know, as a description, I think I'll try Pinterest, but I've never done that.
Kristi, you done much with any of that kind of stuff, like Facebook? Like I've worked with some people, and I've seen mixed results with Facebook. Sometimes it seems to work, sometimes it doesn't. Maybe it's the targeting or the market or whatever, but it's been kind of mixed results with stuff over there.
I think it depends on your product, totally.
Yeah, I've had luck promoting like content on Facebook, not so much on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn, like if you do a business advertisement and you really know your target audience, like for me it's really easy. If I'm trying to like promote my freelance writing services, I aim it for like editors and, you know, small business owners and things like that, because I know those are exactly my type of clients. So that I find LinkedIn advertising is good. Twitter, you definitely get a lot of traffic, but the ad credit goes really fast, so it really just depends.
How targeted is the Twitter stuff as far as demographics and things? You know, I've never actually done anything paid promotion over there, and I know at Facebook you can get pretty granular and everything, but is Twitter just kind of like the fire hose that it is, or?
It's getting better. They're adding more targeting options into it, so it's getting better. It's still not as good as Facebook though. You could get so detailed on Facebook. It's a lot better there. But on Twitter you could I think you could do custom audiences now, so you could like, you know, do it towards your customer list, your email list, and things like that. And those kind of ads really go well because you already know that those are the people that are going to be interested.
So you could take a list of customers and see if they have Twitter accounts and go directly to them.
Yeah, it just matches up the email list with like whoever they could find on Twitter, and if they find them, they'll target the ad to them.
That's that would be very good as far as upselling products that have already been purchased. Which,
but it's not cheap.
Not cheap. Yeah.
No, I don't think it is. For the return, I don't think it's inexpensive at all.
I think YouTube's probably one of the best paid promotional places now. Hey, Terry?
What's that?
YouTube's very cost effective if you're doing video content. Julie, you do any of the paid routes with promotional activities?
No, we don't do any of that. Sounds interesting, but most of our clients, if they're doing it, they've got somebody else handling it.
Yeah. Doc, what's a dark post?
Basically, it's an unpublished post where you can, so it doesn't show up in your stream. You're not, you know, if you're putting out a targeted piece, you're not spamming all of your followers. You're just you're able to select. who's going to see it. They call it, technically, I think it's actually termed an unpublished post. But it's paid, and I've been educating myself on it simply because Gary Vee talked it up so much. He says he's getting fantastic return on that, and it's supposedly the pricing looks very attractive. It's pretty affordable.
So, yeah, it's probably more highly targeted as well, right?
Very highly targeted, yeah.
So it's basically a post that you're paying to target it to a certain audience.
Well, it may be a post, standalone post of its own, or it may be a post that's directing something back to a target site too. You put it together yourself, and then you simply promote it via unpublished post, so that you're more selective of who sees it. And it's nice that way because you're not spamming everybody when only a portion of your followers might be interested in that particular product or service. And you're able to also focus in on who's going to be more receptive to it. So you can really, it's nice for testing.
Yeah, it's still an ad though, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I know it's not on our topic list, but I want to throw this out there for you guys too. Tracking is something I'm always doing in SEO. You know what I mean? I change the title tag, whatever. A lot of times, even with social media teams, I come across and work with corporate clients and things of that nature, and I ask, well, how did a piece this last year go? Or this? There doesn't seem to be a lot of record keeping. Do you guys do or think that it's important to be keeping a lot of records as far as after you put that out there? What traffic we got, what tweets we got. How effective was it? Did it reach what we wanted to? Like what? And if you're doing so, what are you using for tools, spreadsheets, or how are you doing that? Anybody wants that, go for it.
Well, I certainly think it's important, and I always encourage my clients to do that. Most of our work, we're simply delivering content to the clients, and that would fall within their area of responsibility. When we do blog management, where we're doing a total wrap, ground to roof management of their blog, then we'll handle the monitoring. But yeah,
Kristi, are you in the same boat, Kristi? You're just sort of handing it off, or are you suggesting that it track, or do you look at past stuff? Like, even if I'm thinking content per client, I'll look at the analytics. What kind of content is done well on different channels in the past?
It's really interesting, actually. I have a lot of clients who they'll tell me like one of their main goals is to get a lot of conversions from their content, and I ask them how they're tracking it, and they're like, "Oh, we're not." So I'm just like, so how do we measure that? But I always suggest setting up at least Google Analytics goals. That way you can track from the landing pages how well things are converting. And on my end, I have that set up, and I use a social sharing tool called Octopus that actually you create campaigns every time you promote something, so you can always go back in and look at how well they perform in all the different social channels and the groups and everything like that. So it kind of keeps track of all that for you.
What was that called?
It's Octopus.
Optipost?
It's OCTOPOST.com.
Yeah, drop it in the chat there.
Oh, yeah.
Have a chance.
But yeah, I often in these discussions find that no one's really tracking past things or campaigns as they're ongoing. Oh, go ahead, Deb, you're shaking your head there.
Oh no, I was just agreeing. Sometimes it's you're a little bit surprised when people say, well, it didn't do well. It's like, well, how do you know it didn't do well? How do you know how many people read it or whatnot? I think it's expectations, going into it too. If you have to set up, is it how many links you got from it, or how many new people linked to it, or trackbacks, or whatever you want to call it. But that's one of those
shares. How many people reshared it?
Sure, there are tools for that, and a lot of times we follow up with that kind of stuff. That's easy enough for me to track. But analytics is one of those things where I don't have as much information on as I would like to have. It's that one area that I've always said, oh, I'm going to spend a weekend and sit down and learn how to do it. Haven't done it yet. So, no, it's real important, though. I agree.
So, since we're talking about the prospecting and monitoring tools, this is a slide that Debra was nice enough to put together for us. Shows some different places where you can get different kinds of information using some tools. So here's is this showing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got it. Yeah, like I said, I'll put the actual links in the show notes afterwards.
Okay, but the event page showing, Dave?
Yep, you're good. You're good.
All
So
right.
do you want to go over these tools, Deborah, and kind of tell everyone quickly what they can and can't do?
Sure, absolutely. These are kind of my favorite in my toolbox. I use all the time, all of the above kind of tools that I thought might be helpful for everyone to see. From a prospecting standpoint, when you want to look at performance, and this is mostly from a competitive standpoint, a lot of times when we're trying to sell something, I have to convince people that the topic, or the title is a good one. So I have to go back and say, okay, well, here, this is what it did when Joe, your competitor, published something similar, so that they become comfortable with it. And for that, typically I use TrackMaven and Ranker. They are both paid tools. TrackMaven is a little expensive too. It's a little more pricey than Ranker. Does not come with a free trial, which, if you know me, you know I'm really big on free trials. Before you do anything, buy anything, always take the trial, but TrackMaven not so much. But both of them do what I've outlined here. Both of them are absolutely wunderbar, and I think in that regard, TrackMaven is one I really can't live without, in that regard, or Ranker. Follower Wonk, most people know about. It has a free and a paid side, and it pinpoints people who are vocal in your space. We like to use the word influencer, but really it's vocal on social media in your space. If you want to look at it by platform, Google Plus has Circle Count, Twitter, Social Oomph, I would assume that's how you pronounce that. These tools that I've listed by the particular platform do a really, really good job in pinpointing people who are very active on those platforms by industry, by keyword, I guess, and that shows you, how many times they tweet something or pin something or how active they are and so forth. And they're really, a couple of them there you can see are no charge, and some of them have very small charges. I also like Social Oomph quite a bit, for Twitter especially, because of what it does. But those four will really help you look for influencers. It's important to know who the influencers are in your area, so that you can tweet at them or Facebook at them or whatever, and just have them pass along your content. That's really your goal. You would like them to help you promote it a little bit, and these things will tell you pretty much who they are and where they are, and in some of the more in the paid sections, they will give you, some of them will give you what's it called, contact information. Couldn't think of the word, sorry. So these are just for looking for performance topics, and how certain topics are doing, or looking for influencers.
Okay.
I see Terry, but no slide.
I see here in the next one that
Well, while on tools, actually, I want to hit up Kristi, since she had the Octopost one. And what other tools are you using, Kristi, or advise or promote? Or
BuzzSumo actually does really good if you want to look for influencers who like tweeting about specific types of content, because you can look up a specific post, for example, that someone else wrote that's similar to yours, and then you could go in and see who shared it on Twitter, and then you could sort it by how many followers they have, and you can kind of see the most influential followers who tweet about a specific topic, and those are good people to hit up for things, because they're obviously already sharing.
I love BuzzSumo. I can't believe I left them off my list. They're awesome.
That's why I got to throw that one in there.
No, you're right, and I'm kind of surprised at myself I didn't put that one on there. And it's more of a dashboard tool, meaning an overall tool, not a platform tool. It's really super for that. That's definitely a good one. I don't see the next slide, Terry. Do you? No?
Yeah, I got it here.
Julie, just going to randomly throw some of the Q&A from the people watching in here. So Anne was asking if hiring digital brand ambassadors is a good way to naturally do link building.
Oh, that's a very good question. I think it depends on how they do it. If they can act like real people and not just seem like pushy salespeople, I think it would probably be good. But I don't know. I mean, we've never done link building like that, so. I
Yeah,
don't know. I mean,
it's a hard one to measure, I'll bet you. That'd be a hard one to measure. Like brand ambassadors just kind of running around talking about your stuff. You don't really know what's affected that link. So
Right.
I'm not sure how you would justify that at the C level down the line. You know, we're
Right.
paying this guy X number of dollars. What's he doing for us? Yeah, it might be a little hard to justify. You know, to really nail that down, I would imagine.
Right. Well, I actually had some conversations with an SEO, and I didn't realize that he was actually trying to kind of get me to use his tool. You know, we had talked about other things, and he kept emailing, and then when he would write blog posts about it, he would send them to me. And, you know, I should know better that this was marketing, but I was just like, wow, he is so nice to keep letting me know.
Yeah, we're pals now. Anything I send you, you're going to promote. Come
Right.
on.
That's the thing, and I should know better, you know.
I get that all the time with tools from even friends of ours in the industry. Someone will come along with a new tool and say, hey, David,
Right.
you know, and Terry and I have been consistent. If we like it, we'll write about it. If we don't, we'll just say nothing, okay?
Right.
But, yeah.
Right. If you had somebody that good at it that could really kind of be under the radar, I think you could probably build some great links.
Yeah, and Deborah, I now have the next screen share. This is on hashtags, tools you use.
I think that this is probably one of the least talked about and most underused tool, if you will, is the basic little common hashtag. Because everybody uses them, but not everybody uses them. A lot of people use them, and they use them across the platforms. You know, all of them, Instagram, everybody pretty much has a hashtag, and you can follow them and look at them on these particular outlets like Tagboard and hashtag it, and just find out who's tagging what, or somebody's coming up with new terms. Sometimes we come up with some really cute little things. It's just a great place. Somebody's using them all the time, too. People using a particular hashtag over and over and over. They're a fan. You know, they might not be an influencer, but they're a fan. And we don't talk a lot about fans. We talk a lot about influencers, but, you know, fans are people who purchase. So for me, the hashtag is just one of those.
Which, again, goes back to the measuring. I think Steve here in our comments was saying, you know, he's had 142,000 visits from Pinterest in a single month, but only 6 people joined the list or bought something. So again, that whole measurement thing and what's the efficacy of the channel?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, Steve said something too about Medium.com. I love Medium.com.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of people keep talking about that lately.
You know, when I just want to have a mental health break in the afternoon, I'll pop over there and just read what the recommended threads are. There are some very talented people there with some very great ideas about everything in life, not just, you know, about marketing, but Medium is an awesome place. You know, it's kind of like a fancy Tumblr. I don't know, you know. Tumblr for me is for a younger crowd and a more artsy crowd and so forth. Medium is like thought-provoking, and I love Medium. I love going over there. But the downside to that is, you know, you have another outlet to maintain.
So,
On the tools thing, I think also David Brown was asking about Outbrain and Taboola. Anyone familiar with those? Not really.
I am familiar with Outbrain, not so much Taboola, but Outbrain, and it's an advertising. It's, how do you say this? It like suggests other things for you to read based on what's on the page, kind of thing. That's, again, like Doc mentioned, those are typically things I don't get involved with because it's a different kind of marketing and a different kind of advertising. But I do know several people that have it client-wise, and they like Outbrain. But I don't know anything about Taboola, except it's a cool name. Taboola.
And earlier we were talking about finding websites that actually send traffic. You've added 3 tools for that as well?
Yes. Most people kind of think of Alexa, I guess, off the top of their heads when they think about this kind of thing. These are not really like that. These are a little bit different. SimilarWeb, SEMrush, Quantcast, they will give you information about the site. You know, a lot of times if we were talking about...
Again, I think people need to take that with a grain of salt. It's not going to ever be dead on numbers. It's just more of a, you know, estimate, just so folks know.
It is. Part of the thing, though, is that if you're going to send content away to someone else's site, or if they've asked you to guest blog on their site, and I think Kristi can talk to this much better than I can, you want to be able to know a little bit of something about it, because everybody thinks their baby is cute. The reality is not everybody's babies are wonderful. So it's the same difference here. You can do a little bit of recon on them using these particular sites. There's another one that's online called Moat, M-O-A-T, MOAT.com, that I didn't put up there. Same sort of kind of difference. Give you a real good idea, of what's going. And you can also track it from a competitive standpoint as well. If somebody's doing really well with a piece of content, or just in general, and they've come on your radar, good idea to watch them through those sites.
All right, well, Kristi, what's part of your qualification process? If it's someone you're going to target or someone that's coming to you or in your client?
I do use SEMrush to look at like how much search traffic they're getting. Use BuzzSumo to see how popular their content is, like as far as social sharing goes. And like usually I look at their website itself and see if like people are commenting and having discussions and stuff. Because usually if you don't see a lot of that, you don't really know how well people are getting into the content. Whereas if you see like 100 comments on something, people are like really reading it and getting excited about it.
And of course, Julie, you do lots of prospecting and targeting. So again, you said using the SERPs themselves, I guess.
Right.
Meaning, would you get like a keyword basket and then look for common domains that are in various terms, or is it like how do you? What's the finer point?
So bare bones. We have like maybe there are 4 link builders working, and they just start thinking of different terms and they go search for them. They might, I always tell them to read the site, actually look at what the client sells, because they forget to do that. And they might read like a new blog post and think, oh, I'm going to put this keyword in, and go through the SERPs. And that's just how they do it.
And I guess secondary metrics are what? Like followers, links,
right.
etc.
We used to.
I used to have a spreadsheet that would have, I'd have my staff monkey putting down, how many Twitter followers, how many Facebook followers, how many links, etc., beside each of these domains, and then start to sort them that way.
Right. Well, we use Majestic metrics and Moz metrics mainly because the clients want to see those. But, we just do like what Kristi said, look to see if there are comments, if, seems to be like an actual post that's giving people something useful, people are responding to it, they're tweeting it, maybe there's a comment thread that's been going on for a while, just signs of life, basically. That's the main thing we look for. But we look at SEMrush too, so if we see, we don't want to put a link on a site that has had great traffic and then last month it just crashed.
I'm going to have to send SEMrush an invoice, apparently, after this show. Wow, I'm getting the free promotion here today, Terry.
Yeah. Lots of them off to talk to Garrett, too, by the way.
Apparently, yeah. Anyways, all right. Sorry, what do you got there next, Terry?
Prospecting monitoring tools, finding well-ranked, well-linked pages to host your content. Is this showing up? I can't.
Yeah, it's there. Again, it seems like it's the usual suspects we have here today.
Are the usual suspects, I'd say. Link risk, maybe people aren't too familiar with. That's Dom
Hudson, yeah.
Yep, one of the Dojo members.
Again, I'm not sure if you really, Julie, need Majestic and Ahrefs. Really, I don't think you need both. Do you?
I don't have Ahrefs anymore.
Yeah, same thing. I used to have the same. I used to have both, and now it's just Majestic.
Right, just Majestic. Yep.
Well, I like you Majestic because they have that categorizations they do now.
Right.
They categorize them as well, and I think that's a handy part. So that would be the selling point for me over there.
Yeah.
Are you using BuzzStream, Julie?
No, I'm not using that. I have used it, but to be honest, some of our, when I looked at it, I thought, I don't know if this is the right tool for some of our guys, because they, some of them aren't as computer savvy. So I've used it before on projects, but we've never had like the whole group using it.
It's a good way to keep track of prospects and
yes.
What's what, eh?
Right. That's definitely true.
And just so another little thing for my buddy Garrett, Link Prospector imports directly into BuzzStream.
Okay. I know Link Risk does too, so that's good.
Yep.
All right. What's our next topic? We're past the tools now, are we?
Yeah, can I just mention one thing? Not everybody can afford to pay for a lot of tools and so forth. And for example, this one ranks signals, and I have no interest financially or otherwise in anything that I've done here today. But those kinds of little tools, you know, they're out there too. Just want to bring that up. Some of them have free trials and some of them are free, and that one is. But before you buy any of these tools, it's huge. You've got to sit down and try the tool and play with it for like a week. And use
make sure it's going to do what you want it to do.
Right, absolutely, because people get very unhappy very quickly, and it's a lot of money just to piss away. So, yeah, just make sure you're using your free trials.
I'll just say my best tool is free, and it's between my ears.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm just old, but I'm a lot like Julie too. I tend to just actually search stuff and see what's. You know, I'm with you, Julie. If it's ranking already, they're doing something right that I might want to be attached to. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah, I'm with you on that. Doc, what is Ripples?
Google Plus Ripples, where you can actually
okay.
look at a post and you can see a graphic representation of where it got shared. And you know, going back to the previous slide, you know, for the folks, especially like Deb is talking about, that don't have the budget to afford half a dozen tools, yeah, this is free, and it's a good way to see what your sharing has been, so to see what sort of activity on a particular post. And you can even go back, if you can find the post, if it's back from last April, if you can find it, you can go back there and look at the ripples then and see who shared it back then. So you can determine if you're looking at some old content, you know, is this worth repurposing? How much interest did it really get? It could be a pretty handy tool. It's you know, like I say, it's a graphic representation. It's not an automatic tool. You've got to do each piece of research yourself, but it gives some good information.
Does it show the reshares? In other words, if I share, you share something and I share it, and then someone else shares my share, does it show you the original share?
It shows, you know, if you share my content and then Deb shares your share, it will show that. I don't know how many levels it will go though. That's as deep as I've seen it go, so I can't speak me on that.
Okay, I thought it wasn't showing all mine, so I guess nobody shares my shit. That's a problem.
Oh boy.
I'm going to bite my tongue on that one.
Yeah, well, you know, I had a dozen there in my head, Doc. I was trying, which one would you?
You know, one of the things to keep in mind about ripples and anything on Google, not everybody very few people use Google Plus outside of the industry.
Yeah, so you have a limited data set, a limited demographic.
And the travel industry, the travel, photography, and our industry are really, when I say us, I'm talking about all of tech, not just SEO. Those three industries are what are predominantly being shared on G+. So it's really important that you find your area. You know, if you're on Facebook, and it doesn't have to just be those big ones too. You know, before we had all those things, we had forums, and still a lot of people in certain age groups spend a lot of time on forums. It's an area that we tend to forget about. But I don't know a tool that scrapes anything out of the forum unless you're, you know, trying to pull something like out of 80 Legs or Screaming Frog. But even then, it's not going to give you the kind of information that you want. You have to get involved. But not everything is Twitter bound.
Right.
Okay, so we're getting near the end, and I know the thing that people are always worried about. I'll bet you everybody sitting here still guest blogs, still releases press releases, and still submits to appropriate directories. Yes or no?
No, I haven't really done press releases or directories in quite a while. You know, and as far as dropping content for clients or myself, yeah, the whole guest blogging is dead thing. You know, I feel, Terry, it's more about the location and how you're going about it. If you're spamming 6 zillion places, then that's not really outreach to me. That's just spamming places. Everyone else can tell their own thoughts on that stuff.
I'll do press releases only for really press-worthy events. I'm very, very critical about what warrants a press release. Directories, I haven't done any directories, even niche directories, for quite some time, just simply because I haven't really had a need to, and if I did, it would be very, very critical of that. They'd have to be close niches as well. Guest blogging, like Dave says, you just got to be conscious of the site. You know, where are you putting it? Is it relevant? Is it good neighborhood? And as long as you're picking the location fine, I have no problem guest posting, and I have no problem taking guest posts as long as it's from somebody that is relevant to what they're blogging about, and the post is relevant to the site we're putting it on, and that they're not just looking for an opportunity to drop a link.
Julie, are the days of directories and press releases behind you?
I've never done press releases, actually, and I used to do directories, but, you know, if they had an editorial process, I thought it was okay. So then I applied that to guest blogging. But, you know, you'll still see people that have a good site and they want to approve your content, and then they might respond back and say, you know, it's shit, but I'm still going to publish it. So I don't do a lot of guest posts either anymore. I think if you found a great site, you know, it would be fine, but it's not something I really do much of.
I like press releases for events and, you know, stuff that, like Doc said, that's newsworthy. I think it still has a place, and almost every television station has news releases on their website.
Kristi, you ever use press releases to promote content or anything like that?
Not really to promote content. I did it once for Kickstarter, and that was just, I mean, you know, that really was an event, so it went pretty well. But in general, just wanted to throw something about the guest blogging. I always tell people, if you're not going to get like direct clicks from the guest posting site, it's probably not going to be worth it to you. Just because, like, obviously, if they've got an audience and there are going to be people who refer to your site, that's going to have SEO value just built into it. If you're just writing for a site that has no audience, then that's probably the thing you want to do.
Kristi, to drag us back to tools for one more second, another than one of the notes we had too was you know, ongoing promotion. So, are there tools that you're using? You know what I mean? Like I'll spend like a half a day Sunday scheduling tweets and scheduling various things and posts to go up, so that, you know, the promotion thing, you're not just doing it on the fly. You have some sort of system and method. You know, are you using certain tools for that kind of stuff as far as scheduling promotional activities?
I use Buffer just like to kind of keep my Twitter account running. I use Post Planner for my Facebook page just because you can kind of get a lot of ideas right from inside the tool. If I'm actually like heavily promoting a piece of content, I usually use Octopost mostly because they post to like a lot of groups. And there's a new thing I found called Mass Planner that actually posts to Google+, like even the personal profiles. But it's a little shaky just because like you have to have it on your Windows desktop, and I'm a Mac user, so I had to get a virtual machine to set all that up, and it's kind of hinky, and your computer has to be on for it to actually send everything out. But yeah, I have a lot of
the price of being trendy.
I have two Macs. It's good for holding doors.
All right, well, let's round this up here. We're at the top of the hour anyways, so I guess, Terry, what should we do? Let's everyone throw out their favorite bit of advice on content promotion, or some sort of takeaway, or they were stressing, you know, ladies and gentlemen, it's your elevator pitch or your escalator pitch here, folks. You're talking, if you want to get one thing across to someone when you're talking about content promotion, what would be your top tips or top approach? Go, Deb. We'll start over on my left.
I guess to dovetail off of what you asked just a second ago about what still works, because that's pretty much the number one question I get still is, well, what can we do? I still believe I agree with Kristi. I think that guest posting is still a great tool, but my question always back is, before you take a site, ask yourself, would it pass a Google reviewer's review? As a site, you know, that they would say is spam or is not. So there's plenty of documentation out there about the Google reviewers and the, you know, the criteria that they use. Take a look at the site. If it's not going to pass a Google review, don't put your content on it. If it would, then I think it's, you know, it's a viable option. It's not always just about guest posts though, and I always try to suggest to people to open their eyes and their mind and to look for sites. You know, there's lots of outlets. There's so much demand for content and eyeballs. So many people are giving opportunities. There's so many sites out there. Spread yourself around a little bit until you're comfortable. and then look at other venues just besides blogs. You know, there's forums where you can, there's the social platforms. There are still some very active wikis. They don't call themselves wikis anymore. But there's a lot of different venues that you can put content on. You know, don't always use just blog posts. But ask yourself before you do, you know, would it pass a Google review?
Don't limit your approaches. All right, Doc. What's it?
I guess
a bit of a long elevator ride, so we were going up to the 90th floor.
2 points. The one that has been mentioned already is that so many people are not looking at analytics. They're not monitoring. They're playing their gut. They're going after an audience or trying to focus on a particular topic without really knowing what the results are. You know, you've got to be analyzing, or you're shooting a rifle with no sight on it, okay, and hoping you'll hit something. The other is just to know your audience. You know, too many people seem to be missing that opportunity. Again, they're playing their gut. You can't just look at your conversions only and be able to gauge accurately what is going to get results for you. You've got, obviously, conversions is your main goal, but you've got to hit the steps, and the traffic is the steps, and targeted traffic is the only traffic that counts.
Nice. All right, Julie?
I would say start making sure that, you know, when you're building links, that you're putting them in places that actually make sense for a link, which, you know, we should be doing, but I see so many people just shoehorning them in. They don't make sense. Nobody's going to click on them. They just shouldn't be there at all. And I wish people would just, you know, stop building low-quality links.
I see. You're going for Matt's job. Okay. I like it. I like it. I hear they're hiring over at the web spam team.
Well, you can buy them. I don't care about that. That's fine with me.
Kristi.
Yeah, I was going to kind of say the same thing as Doc, is make sure you're monitoring your analytics, because you could be just kind of throwing all this effort into one channel that's really not producing the kind of qualified traffic you need for your website. And you could be ignoring something that, you know, maybe you just use once in a while that brings you like a huge amount of traffic that's really good for your business. And when you know those things, you know where to kind of focus your time and your budget and everything.
Yeah, see, I'm with both of you there as far as setting out goals beforehand, tracking during and tracking after, looking at efficacy for future endeavors. So yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one. And well, Terry, we could ask you, you're here every week, so really, man, come on.
Well, I could say I'd agree with all, but I'd add the one thing that I think is missed by a lot of people is creativity. People are not creative anymore in how they're adding value to posts, to the content they're doing. It's not very creative at all. You know me, everything's got to have a hook, Dave. You got to have a hook. You can't do content for the sake of making content. That's it. You know,
I'd rather see a client putting out 2 good ones a week or 1 good one than 20 shitty ones. So I'm with you there for sure. All right, folks. Well, we rolled it over. Another hour flew by. Thanks so much to everyone for dropping in. It was a lot of fun. And Kristi, thank you for actually making it there in the coffee shop.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad it wasn't too noisy.
Not too many people that wander around with a headset with them, so you got your shit together now. All right, guys. Thanks very much. We got Debra Mastaler, we got Doc Sheldon, Julie, Joyce, Kristi Hines, and of course, Terry Van Horn. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Hope to see you again soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
We'll make lots of money. I have to say it once a week, or I just don't feel good about myself.